Hi, welcome to Brady's Blunders, where I show you the mistakes in my games, hoping you don't make the same ones in yours. And I'd like to give a special welcome to all the Sibicky super fans who joined since the last video. You're very welcome, and I hope you can learn something here as well. For the next few videos, I'm going to continue the same game with Nick, but before doing so, I just want to address something in the upper left-hand corner, and that is that this is actually a reasonable result for white. The reason Nick considered it a screw up, it's because it's not the result he wanted. His goal was to cut me off and put me in a position where I had no choice but to fight and to run. And it didn't do that. Instead, he put himself in a position where I could sacrifice and force him to pick it up. And so the reason it was a screw up isn't because it was bad, it's just not what he wanted. And as a matter of fact, when Andrew Jackson watched the video, he said, "Hey Brady, I actually thought the result was pretty good for white because he got, 20, 25 points and all of his stones are working together too." And he's exactly right. When I showed the game to Jenny Shen, she's a 2-down professional from China and my teacher, and she also agreed. And she said, no, this is playable for both sides. White's got 25 points in the bank that he never has to worry about. And as a matter of fact, the onus is now on black because black has to make A useful. And if black can't get the equivalent value out of those stones, then it turns out that this variation was good for white. All right, on with the game. My next move was here, which was perfectly fine. And I asked, would this be better placed at A? And Jenny replied, it's a matter of style. It doesn't really matter. Both are perfectly good. And then Nick played here. And this actually isn't a matter of style. This move isn't good in this position. And I'll explain more in just a few minutes as to why. But now we're up to the part of the video where I ask the viewer, okay, if you were me, where would you have played? So if you were black, where would you play now? And if you want to think about it, go ahead and pause. Right. I played here, which was wrong. And at this point, it would be very easy for white just to come here. If I try to make him live small, white can say, okay, I'll live small. So what white's doing with these moves is making a solid and safe group right where I would like to grow a moyo. And in so doing, and especially by coming out with that last move, he's doing everything he can to minimize the value of my thickness at A. So there's a bit of compromise in that, yeah, he gave me the corner, but his corner is a lot bigger. So this would be a good way for white to continue after my move. But let me explain why his move isn't great just from another similar Fuseki, and one you've all seen. So in this position, it used to be normal for white to split the side this way. And when I say used to be, this was all the way up to the early 2000s. And it was considered natural for black to play over here, extending from strength and beginning to build a boxy shape. And this was considered to be pretty good for black. And white would continue over here, and it was considered equal for both sides. But then in the early 2000s, a super strong Chinese pro experimented with a different approach. And his name was Gu Li, and he played this way. And he would either play here or A, and then white would extend, and then black would come here. And the idea of this is to say, all right, instead of treating this as a group I want to extend from, I'm going to extend it as a super strong group that, number one, I don't need to defend, and number two, I can push things towards it. So it's a useful group, not one I necessarily want to grow. And instead, the growth potential comes at the top for black. And you can see that black is building quite a large area of influence. And if black gets to follow up with forcing moves at A and B, it will get bigger still. And variations in this were played for many, many games in the early 2000s, and it was decided that this result was just too good for black. So instead of splitting the side, the proper move for white was decided that was here. And it's not that this is advantageous for white, it's still just an equal game. But what it does is it prevents black from building the huge moyo on the top. So if we go back and look at this, remember the shape and think about it in terms of Nick's game with me. All right, so let's go back. So now Nick's just played here, and obviously my proper move is now obvious. I can play here. Nick will likely jump over here, and this huge thickness sort of acts as the first two moves from the other fuseki that I showed, and I don't need to continue locally. I can actually jump right in to these plays right away. And look how big black's upper right is getting. All of these stones are working together with A. And normally, in a situation like this, in this particular shape, white goes ahead and plays here and makes sure he's completely alive and there's not a bunch of forcing moves around. But if white was to do that here, black would play another move in the upper right and laugh all the way to the bank, saying, okay, yeah, you get your 20, 25 points in the upper left. Now look at my upper right. Ha ha. And it would be a really bad game for white. So white doesn't have time to do that. And white needs to do something right away, like potentially jumping in. But when you look at this, it's not going to be easy for white. And it feels kind of all-in-ish. So, and actually it's even worse than this, because black doesn't even have to do this right away. Black can go ahead and take advantage of the moves white didn't play and build further thickness and influence and take forcing moves. White's not yet alive, so needs to follow up. And white's still not alive. And so long as black has sente, he can keep playing forcing moves. And now you can see that white is completely surrounded. Black's getting pretty thick, pretty happy. And now black can come back and kick this stone. And even if the stone survives somehow, black has a follow-up around A. Again, building a new moyo, working with new thickness, and probably getting a whole lot of money. This game is definitely good for black. And that is why, so not only was my direction wrong when I played here, that's why Nick's direction was wrong when he played here, because he allowed me that variation that would be just terrific. And instead, white should just approach over here. And again, the idea is minimize the moyo that can develop from A. So, what to learn from this? Well, first, white's already gained his profit in the upper left-hand corner, but as a result, black got tremendous thickness. And this thickness should actually be dominating the thoughts of both players, and it becomes a constant direction of play problem for quite a while. And when white played here, that allows me this approach to fully exploit the value of A. So this move was a mistake, direction of play mistake. And my answer was exactly the same, direction of play mistake. Don't worry, there's more to come. See you next time.